just started it back up again. Okay.
We're going again?
Yeah, so you guys should be on there with your mics.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Hello, Nuno. Hello, Portugal. Let's get you guys all at once. Thanks for coming by.
Okay, go grab the light. Well, I'm now getting the beauty lights out for you guys.
All right, that's right.
All right, I'm HDMI'd in now.
We're starting soon.
Real soon.
We're going to get a little extra light in here, so it doesn't look like we're broadcasting from a cave. And same to you, YouTube. We're hoping that this new platform will elicit more feedback from you guys. So hopefully you're not shy about putting in comments as we go through here. We'd love to hear what you're thinking about what we're doing. And actually, we're going to poll you. We're going to ask you for some input on what we're doing. So if you don't respond or say something, then we're just going to look like jerks.
Yeah. So what Erin's saying
Some of us aren't used to that. Hey, don't look down there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Hope everything's going well. Week before the holidays. Anybody have big plans coming up? Anything? Anybody traveling?
We got Portugal. What kind of countries we have happening here? Portugal and USA. What time is it in Portugal?
Time to watch SketchUp on YouTube. All right. Whoops, see, there we go. A little cloud cover came over, got dark in here again. Once again, standing in a cave.
Holiday cave.
And though the light is low, the heat is high. It's toasty in here. Perfect spot to be wearing a Santa hat and a sweater.
Mm-hmm. Feels like this thing's made of plastic.
Oh, geez.
Just going to keep rambling, talking about things.
Did you know we named these cookies?
Nope.
Meredith, George, Marv. No, that's Meredith. I forgot the other one. They're in the SketchUp model, though. Just thought that was important info for you to know.
Did you refresh? We had problems with the beginning stream yesterday.
Okay. You got your screen up there too. Do SketchUp stuff if you want.
All right.
Is mine's showing? All right.
Thanks for sticking with us through this, guys. Like I said, our goal is to do something better than what we've done in the past. But to get there, we might have to stumble once or twice. So hopefully you guys are cool and willing to roll with it. Hopefully this will be worth it. That's my big hope.
Yeah,
what we do is worth the pain of this.
We're testing all the variables because we got to figure out what works. There's a lot of things being connected, and eventually it'll be perfect.
Nothing less than perfect. That's our goal.
But that's what makes live stuff fun, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Never know what's going to happen.
Recording's so boring. You know what's going to happen. If something goes wrong, you cut it out. None of that when you're going live. David Douglas asked us to keep doing these. And I got to say, you're obviously a faith-filled man in that you're asking for more before we've done anything yet. Thanks, David.
That's really about the best comment we could receive is keep doing it.
Yeah. We're online deleting the ones that say, please stop. We're just getting rid of those before you guys even see them. We're filtering. This is not actually our first live, Julio. This is our first live session on YouTube, though. So we have been for a little over a year been doing live sessions on Facebook. We don't dislike doing live things on Facebook. It's actually been a lot of fun for us. But we're just trying some different platforms, trying to see, how this is received on YouTube versus Facebook. And it's a little bit different setting. We've got a little bit different audience here, so we're going to try it out, see how it goes. So hopefully you'll stick around and let us know what you think.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen any of them, go back. They're on YouTube. There's a playlist of them. And the first one that we did was actually in this room, facing that way. It was January 2017, I think.
Something like that,
and
yeah.
That was my favorite one that we did. The first one was my favorite content.
Yeah,
we had a lot of fun.
It was a good time.
Texture stuff. Aaron
We
had
also
a
didn't know
scanned
what we
version
were
of his
doing.
head in SketchUp, which was a little bit creepy.
I
But,
would not argue with that.
There's some tips that were served up anyway. All right.
Is that better?
Sun came out.
Are we glowing?
I have the makeup if you want to put it on now. I don't think you need it.
So whoever's joining us so far, let us know if you're from a different country, another city. Where are you guys tuning in from? We have a Portugal. We know that.
All right. Cool. Well, Matt, the only thing, we have messages on here, but it went to that collapsed view and it's hiding it from us.
Oh, that's no good.
So,
All right. Bonjour, France, Poland, New Zealand, Ecuador.
woo!
Oh, wow.
Man, Colorado's so boring compared to where you guys are.
Different time zones all over the place.
Yeah. Whoa, somebody's in Germany.
Cool.
You guys are committed.
That is
We're only here because we have to be. It's our job. You guys are
Athens,
tuning in.
Greece,
This is
Italy. Wow.
nice.
Timbuktu.
I think that says we're in France and you guys are awesome. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Utah. Wow. All kinds of foreign countries.
Manhattan, Oakland. Hey,
Oakland.
Niraj.
All right. Well, I think we got our lights. We got people chiming in. So let's officially get this thing rolling.
Well, let's do it. Welcome to SketchUp Live. This is the Holiday 2018 edition. And we got some extra things that we're wearing. Erin's actually wearing
festive
snow.
wear. It's much warmer than snow. These are cookie cutters that we made using SketchUp and 3D printed and made cookies with. So we're going to kind of walk through that whole process. We are hoping that as we go through this, you guys will let us know what you think and give us some input. For example, Josh is going to run us through the basics of making a cookie cutter. And while he's doing that, I would love to hear from you guys what you think, what shape you think would make a cool cookie cutter. So chime in as Josh jumps into this first piece, and maybe if you got the coolest idea, we'll actually model your cookie cutter.
Yeah, because there's no one right way to do it. There's lots of options for how to proceed to make pretty simple shapes, really, that are just outlines for making cookies. So we'll show you just kind of some basic thought processes, and let's turn this guy on here. We good? All right.
And we will hop in.
So just got a brand new file here in SketchUp, so we're going to start really simple. And the first thing I'm going to do, which you don't have to do, but it is good when you're making things in SketchUp this size that are kind of small, is just drop big and then you can scale it down later. You might find that SketchUp creates faces a little bit easier that way. So we're going to worry about the scale afterwards. So if I draw just a large rectangle here, not too worried about the size, because there's our scale figure, Stacy, showing this is much larger than a cookie size, unless that was in the Guinness Book of World Records there. And we're going real simple, rectangle, just to show the process here. It's also a nice cookie shape because it's, maximum surface area for cookie.
That's right. Big cookie.
So I could do the offset tool now and offset some amount here. Do this a couple more times with a double click. So if I double click with that offset tool, I can repeat that. And then we'll do an auto fold here with these 4 lines. So I'm just going to push.
So in case
pull
you guys
this
didn't
up.
catch that, if you do an offset once and then double click on the surface again, it will offset the exact same amount. So Josh did that 4 times consecutively. Each of those strips he left is exactly the same amount.
And then I'm grabbing 4 lines and just pulling those lines up, which is called an autofold in SketchUp, where it's a little bit faster to make geometry that way because of the stickiness of the geometry in SketchUp, where if I bring those lines up, then SketchUp will kind of complete what it needs to fix those, or to create those shapes or faces in this case. So I'll just do that. I tap the up arrow key to lock that in the vertical blue direction. So it's kind of what we've got going on there, kind of a tapered cutting surface there. And then I might also heal a surface down here by tracing an edge. See what happens there. Okay, we'll delete the middle. And now I can pull the base down a little bit. And then again with the double click, just like the offset tool, if I double click, I can repeat that same operation. And so now at this point, it's kind of nice to just orient your surfaces, or right click, orient faces. So we're getting everything looking the right way.
Just make sure you right click on a white surface before you hit orient surfaces. Otherwise you'll get all outside.
So it's a little,
inside out.
Yeah.
Inside out cookie cutter.
Right. You could go through right click each one, reverse the faces, but a lot of times a right click and orienting based on the white facing side is a little bit faster.
In case you guys are wondering, the thing that Josh is modeling right now is a present. So that ties into the whole holiday thing. So if you look at it from the top, it is a, so I mean you were close. YouTube said it looks like a cardboard box. Oh no, he said cat box. It's not that, because that's not a holiday thing. It is a present.
Yeah, it could be anything at this point. So the next stage here is actually just to clean up what we have. We're pretty much done drawing geometry. We just want to erase some extra lines. So here I can get these pretty easily, and then I might go to X-ray mode here to get rid of some of the stuff on the inside. And Erin, you can talk about why we want to do that. Or I will. It's good to get rid of the inside faces, because when you go to 3D printing, you want it to be a solid. And in SketchUp, it's a solid only if there's no random lines on the inside or holes in the geometry. So that's kind of why we're doing that. I'm going to stop here because Erin will show that part of it. So I think we can probably move on to Erin now. That's just a basic way to start it off. There might be a better way to start, and Erin's going to show that.
Right, so so you guys keep your ideas coming in about things you want to, right now the winner, or at least the most vocal, is the request for battle axe cookies, which I'm all for. So if that's what you guys want, we will make battle axe cookies. That works for me.
Okay.
But still give you guys a little bit more time to weigh in case there is something else out there. Let us know, bring your ideas back. But I did want to show you some of the models that we used to create these actual cookie cutters. So I'm going to hop in here and we'll take a look at my screen. And you guys can see, so we have 6 models on here. These are actually the 6 cutters that we printed out. If I look in here at the first ones, so we have these, this right here is, we've got a Christmas tree and a snowman, and you can kind of see the profile that got created there. If I grab a section real quick, and I'm just going to place a section just to cut through here, and you can see kind of what that profile looks like. So it's kind of an L. It's just a rectangle with rectangle at the bottom. It's just popping out. It's not quite as intricate as what Josh made. This was part of the process. So we started into this. We didn't know exactly how we were going to make these cookie cutters. We didn't know exactly what size to do. We actually printed the first cookie cutter we made. I think I printed it 4 times. First time I printed it because it was backwards and I had to reprint it. But the other times we printed, just kind of fine-tune that cutting surface and make the cookie cutter strong. So I mean, it's not going to break as you're using it, but also handleable. So you can push it down in the cookie dough, pull it back up, that sort of thing. So as we worked through this, we just found that while this profile works, it was not the ideal profile. So a little more work went in. Made 2 more cookie cutters. This one is the SketchUp logo. You guys have seen that before. And of course the move tool. So these ones ended up with a slightly different profile. So we put this profile on. We'll cut in here, and you can kind of see what that looks like. So this profile had more of a pointy cutting surface, closer to what Josh just modeled, and then just a single edge on the inside. That was really just to make it rigid and give it some support. The other thing you can see on here is with the SketchUp cookie, we actually made these shapes that would push down into the cookie dough. So that actually left an indentation there. So not only did it cut the shape out of the outside, but actually pushed those down inside. And if you look at it, like I said, this was a mistake I made and had to redo it. This is actually backwards. Very important note. If you're doing something that's not a symmetrical shape, you do want your cookie cutter to be printed backwards if it's facing up. If you're facing down, of course, that's the way you're going to actually cut the cookie. Otherwise, just do a mirror, flip it the other direction, or I'm sorry, a scale to -1, and then you'll get it so it looks right when you actually cut the cookie. All right, so those two worked out okay. This is not bad. The issue I had with this was, first off, it was a lot of plastic. This is a pretty thick profile, and there was really nothing to grab onto on the outside. See, these sides are perfectly smooth on the outside. So the final profile we came up with, and this again is just a process of design. So make something, repeat it over and over again until you get a good solution, looked like this. So here, this was kind of our final profile. And this is pretty much what Josh modeled. So this was a nice flat rectangle. It's got a lip on both sides. It's very rigid. This big tapering piece right here cut through the cookie well. And this actually kept it, like I said, strong and easy to pull back out of the dough when you're actually pressing the cookies. So this last set, we made the push-pull tool and a star. So that's kind of a look at the process we went through to actually design these cookies. And these are the shapes that we ended up making. And all of these actually, like we were holding a couple up, these were actually the ones that ended up getting made. And you can actually see those right there. That's the actual printed cookie cutter. So an important point about this, if you have any interest in making these, absolutely, it's cool. It's actually pretty easy. They're not real demanding shapes to make or models to make in SketchUp. I highly recommend giving it a shot, but something you want to be aware of is not all 3D printed material is actually food safe. So we actually went and looked into this a little bit. Something like ABS is something we want to stay away from if you're going to put food onto it. These actually ended up being made of, and maybe you guys can help me with this. Is it PETG or PETG? When I see 3 letters together, I usually just read it. So I kept saying PETG, and somebody called me out and said it's actually PET. So I don't know if you guys are smarter than, well, you guys are smarter than me. So let me know if I'm saying that right, PETG, PETG. But this is actually a food safe material. So once it's printed and cooled, you can actually use this with food, from our understanding. ABS, like I said, you want to stay away from. Apparently PLA, which is probably the most common material to print with, oftentimes has additives to it which can be not food safe. So it's something you kind of want to steer clear of. So yeah, so I do recommend, give it a shot, try making some of these. They're, like I said, an easy project to do. You could probably do one in, I don't know, half an hour, 20 minutes, something like that. Each of these, putting 2 of these together was about 2 hours of work. So for the printer. I didn't do anything during that time. So yeah, it's a good thing to try out, and it's kind of fun because you can have your own special cookies that way. So yeah, so hopefully ideas are still coming in.
I'll do a snowflake at some point later on. That's a good one. There's some fun ways to use component mirroring in SketchUp to draw part of a snowflake and have the rest of it sort of do its thing. But before we do that, let me jump back over to my screen here, and we'll talk a little bit about, I guess, the next step on mine, and then the follow me tool with Erin. So if I take a look at what I've got here, before I go to 3D print this, of course, I would want to adjust the scale. Otherwise, this would be quite a mess in the 3D printer. So the way I want to do that is nothing is grouped or component in this model except for Stacy, of course. I'm going to delete her right now because I want to scale my entire model.
You're supposed to say bye, Stacy, when you do that. Can you undo and do that properly?
I can.
All right, try that again.
See you later, Stacy. Thanks for the help so far.
It'll work.
And the reason I'm doing that is because I just want to scale the whole model by itself. I could group the geometry and then scale it on the inside, but if you've not seen how this is done in SketchUp, you go to the tape measure tool is one method here, and I just want to measure a known dimension. So in this case, I'm just going to measure this right here. It says it's 3 inches and something. We want that to be 1/8 of an inch. So if I just simply click on those 2 points and then type in what I want, so 1/8 of an inch, enter, you'll be prompted to resize the model, or if it's a group or component, it'll say that. If I say yes and then do zoom extents, it of course looks the same, but if I do a quick measurement now, that will be an 1/8 of an inch here. So from there to there is now an 1/8 of an inch. So that's how you scale things in SketchUp, is the tape measure tool. One of those techniques that really isn't, it's kind of hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that for a workflow like this makes a lot of sense, because honestly, at the end of the day, we don't really care how thick the cutting edge is or how big the bottom edge is or even how big the cookie is. I mean, we kind of went, that's going to be about this big. Perfect. So in this case, getting that shape correct and making sure relatively the pieces are the right size to each other is the more important part. Once that's set up, then yeah, the scaling it at the end to make sure it's going to be the right size on the print bed, that's kind of the final step, and that works. I know sometimes arbitrary modeling is not a good thing, and of course SketchUp can be as precise as you need it to be, but in something like this, we don't have to be, no precision is needed right at the very beginning.
Because cookie dough will soon erase any precision you try to make.
That's 100% true.
So might be good to keep that in mind. So back on my screen here, I want to do one more thing before we go back to Erin's. So let's just say that I think the more efficient way to do this is to create a profile or cross section and then spin that around a path. So if we wanted to kind of step backwards a little bit here, I'll throw a quick section plane on my model, toss it right here, and just move it in. So this shape here would be what I would probably want to use with the Follow Me tool. And if I wanted to kind of go backwards and get this now, I could right-click here and do a Create Group from Slice. Then SketchUp kind of gives me this geometry right there, and I could go in here and just kind of deal with this geometry to start with. So if I wanted to, I could start here at this point, have a new shape, and use the Follow Me tool. You know, for my method, I might have been just kind of figuring things out, getting some massing ideas going on, and then once I see it done, then I can maybe do this. So let's throw it over to Erin now, and do you want to do that, the Follow Me tool thing?
Yeah, sure.
So starting with the cross section.
So we had a lot of ideas, and I may have to at some point go back and create a battle axe cookie because
We all know you're going to.
you know, I mean, come on, it's a battle axe and a cookie.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. I mean, it's a win for everybody. But I gotta admit, I totally got called out about making a stocking with a SketchUp logo in it. So that's what's gonna get done.
That's pretty good too.
All right, so we're gonna hop in here. I have a brand new, this is just a fresh model, just started it. And what I'm gonna do is, like Josh said, I'm not gonna worry about modeling this at only 4 inches tall or anything like that. I'm just gonna kind of get in and get my shapes in. I'll scale it back afterwards. So with a stocking, I'm gonna kind of look for like a, what would you call it? Like a melted L type shape.
I wouldn't, but that works.
So one of the things I like to do when I'm drawing 2D is draw on a surface. So I'm going to come in here first thing and just create a big rectangle on the ground. So this assures that as I come in, if I come in here and start maybe mocking in my shapes like this, you know, with something like that, I can be assured that I'm snapping to that surface. All I have to do is watch that, that icon. If I come off here, you notice that I don't have a little dot under my pencil. As long as I stay on the surface, I have that little diamond shape. That assures that I'm actually drawing something on the surface and not flying off. If I'm drawing here in the middle of space, I can't be assured from a 3D view if I'm drawing this up in the air or if it's flat on the ground plane. I don't know where it is. So working off of this shape like this is very important. So first thing I did, I said just got a rough shape of what I want to draw. Now I'm going to come in. There's a couple ways I could actually do this. I'm going to use, well, I'll use a couple tools. I'll start in here with just my standard arc tool. So with arc, I'm going to click to somewhere on this line, and I'm going to slide down to somewhere on this line. And you'll see right now it's staying green, and then as soon as I snap to here, it turns magenta. All right?
You're right, magenta.
Magenta.
It should come up.
Not to be confused with pink.
All right,
Good? That was a little commercial break brought to you by lag. Things are going too smooth in your life, try lag. All right, so getting back into it.
So we could still be recording? All right, either way, this is a
We might
commercial
be
break.
having technical issues and you might not be seeing this.
You should be back on pretty soon.
And
I
go.
want to make sure that it's like stable.
Comments. Let's see what we got
That's
here. Battle Axe, Snowflakes,
Bye, Stacy.
Krampus. Somebody wants a
Julio
baby,
knows what's up.
a baby Jesus cookie mold. Okay.
Okay.
We may be back.
Let's proceed as,
All right,
as if
so
we
I'm going
are.
to pretend we are. I'm going to jump back to the start of this step. I'm going to grab an arc. And I'm going to click just kind of right along where I want the heel of this stocking to be. And I'm going to drag my cursor along the other side. So you have that teal arc. And then as soon as I snap to tangent to both edges, that's where that arc will be in line with both edges, it turns magenta. So if I double click there, it's going to cut that right there. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside edge here. Just slide over till I get that magenta. And then I have that kind of a nice...
Ooh, this could be a good time for the double click repeat thing.
It would be, except I'm not gonna.
Okay. All right.
But
Well,
Josh's point is, yes, if I wanted to, I could actually come into these corners right here, double click those to smooth those out.
But that's clearly not the most
But-
comfortable stocking.
Yeah, that would hurt my feet. Something else I want to look at, just because I do enjoy mixing in a extension here there, I'm going to come up to Draw, and I'm going to use my Bezier Curve tool. With Bezier Curve, and I'm fairly certain that's French. Somebody here's from France,
Well,
right?
there's yeah.
Bezier. What does Bezier really mean in the?
I believe it's a French dude's name who invented the math that creates such a curve.
Learn
But
something new every
I don't
day.
actually know.
I buy that. If I didn't know any better, I would say that was 100% true. Learning. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, like I said, arbitrarily picked a spot on this top edge of the stocking. I'm going to come down to a spot on the bottom. And then what I can do now, what's going to happen is Bezier Curves doesn't allow me to pick 2 points. One's going to create the spot that I launch from for the first end of the curve, then the second end of the curve. And what I want to do, because I want this to kind of be in line with this line right here, I'm actually going to pick a spot on this line. So I'm going to click right here. I'm going to do the same thing down here, come along this line. And what that's going to do is assure that this transition is a nice smooth one from this solid line into this curve and this solid line into that same curve. So at that point,
It's beautiful.
I can take those off there. You can't tell me that's not a stocking. All right, I might move this over a little bit, make that a little bit wider. And one of the things I was asked for in this was a SketchUp logo. So yes, we can do a SketchUp logo. It's actually...
Quick thing to point out, Erin's drawing this stocking on geometry that's kind of surrounding it, which doesn't have to be there, but it actually is kind of nice to have that larger plane when you're working in 2D planes in SketchUp. It just kind of helps you stay aligned and keeps SketchUp from kind of going off in the distance. So it's actually a good technique to maybe almost draw yourself like a larger sheet of paper if you were doing it in real life.
Exactly, like I was drawing on paper. All right, so a couple things are going to happen right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hop over here and I'm going to pull in a reference image. I do spend a lot of time around the SketchUp logo, but no matter how hard I try, I haven't mastered the craft of hand drawing that logo yet. It always looks weird when I try to just draw it. So I'm going to go to File and Import, and I downloaded a SketchUp logo. So I'm going to import that as an image, and I'm going to slap it on the ground here. I'm just going to get it in there. Again, not worried about scale because I'm going to immediately, as soon as I'm done drawing this, scale it back down to fit onto my stocking that I'm about to draw. All right, so what I'm going to do is come in with lines, and I'm going to start with the chevrons. That could be a French word too, who knows? Somebody somewhere knows. I just don't. All right, so I'm just going to trace around, and I'm just clicking on the corners is all I'm doing. Nothing fancy. These are all off axis. So I'm not worried about using references or anything like that. I'm just drawing the shape around. So just click, click. And that's actually an interesting thing too about the SketchUp logo, is that a lot of these lines look parallel, but they're actually not. There's perspective on the SketchUp logo. So a lot of these lines are almost parallel, but just slightly out of plane. So if you do go and use a SketchUp logo and reference, you can't always use the parallel snap or the perpendicular snap because due to that vanishing plane of that perspective, they're not actually parallel. So once I've got that, I did my inside pieces. Now I'm going to trace the outside piece. So the reason I'm doing this inside first is because what's going to happen when I finish this outside shape is it's going to draw a plane. It's going to draw a surface. And once it draws a surface, I have to either go to X-ray or delete the surface to draw inside of it. So by doing it this way, it made it a little bit, it's just going to make it easier to save me a step later on. So something that's happening right here is you can see it is actually snapping to parallel to a line, but I don't want it parallel to a line. I want it just off of parallel. This is something you'll see when you get into some drawings. It's trying to snap there, and I want to be just outside, but it doesn't seem to be giving me those options. It's either too far inside, perpendicular, or too far outside on face. What I can do is zoom in to that transition to give me a little finer, a little fidelity with that selection. I'll click right there, and then my last click is going to be up here to the top. And what I'm looking for is this shape right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Move, click on the shape, and I'm just going to use Option to slide it over. By using Option to move it over, I didn't have to worry about deleting these pieces or anything like that. I can just grab all this, delete it, and this is the piece I need. So I have two pieces right now. I'm going to come over to my stocking, and I'm going to start by getting that to just a line. And this is what Josh was showing earlier. What I want now is I want to actually create a shape that is going to represent that cookie cutter. So I think, is this? No. So none of my, one of the things I want to do as I draw this is I do want to try to draw on axes. I want to take advantage of the axes, the inferencing, so that I can draw straight lines. Right now I can't because nothing I have is actually on axes. So what I'm going to do is temporarily change the axes. So I'm going to go to my tools. I'm going to click on axes. I'm going to click right in the middle of this straight line. It's a straight line, I like that. And I'm going to click again so my red line is on that axis, and then click a third time. That's going to temporarily move my axes to the top line and put it perpendicular right there. All right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to draw a reference line up like that. And I'm going to draw something like this.
So Erin's making that cross section now.
There we go. I'm going to take this.
For the resulting shape.
And actually, I'm going to do this. Rather than use Move this time, I'm going to use Rotate. Select that surface, Rotate. I'm going to use my up arrow key to snap vertical. Pick on this spot. And as I spin it around, I'm going to hit the Modifier key. That's Option on Mac, Control on Windows, and do that. And I can delete that right there. All right, that looks good. I'm going to get rid of that line, triple click, and make that a group. Now, what I'm going to do is grab that and put that, and I'll just put it at the corner right now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Got a little crazy there. My apologies. Whew. All right, so there I have it right on line with that top line. So I'm just going to take it right now, right from this same point, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So I'm assured right now that this is 90 degrees to this top line. And I'm realizing as I do that, this is a big cross section. That's a little too big. So I'm just going to go ahead and scale that real quick. There we go, something more like that. And put this back on the line. All right, looking good. All right, so last step to finish this first piece. I'm going to triple click the outside. This is the line I created. Then I'm going to hit the Follow Me command, which is going to be under Tools and Follow Me. And this is kind of a cool function. If you haven't seen this already, I can do a Follow Me with a group or geometry that's inside a group. So while in Follow Me, and see right now it says Select Face to Extrude, what I can do is right click and Edit Group, And when I do that, I'm still in follow me. It's still asking for a face to extrude. So now I can click right here and boom, get that. And the cool part is when I step out here, this is already grouped. So I already don't have to worry about the geometry I followed. If I'm doing that in a busier model, that makes it real simple.
So that's probably new to a lot of people. Usually you draw your path, you draw your profile or cross section, and you use follow me tool kind of with it still connected. And this is really great because it preserves your path outside of the cross section geometry, which is nice to just keep for a later modification, or put on a layer, turn it off, or you just have geometry that's not merging together. So that's a sneaky little tip that people don't often use for follow me tool, but that's probably the best way to use that tool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a nice option because one of the first things I do when I make something, I'm making a thing when I use follow me. I'm going to make a tube or a handrail or something or other. It's going to be a thing. So I create the geometry, and then first thing I do is triple click and make it a group. This saves you that step.
And if you missed that, what Erin did was normally you click on the path, then go right to the cross section. He still kind of did that, but he right clicked on the group first, went to edit mode that way because you can't double click into the group with the follow me tool active. So it's a right click with the follow me tool, enter the group that way, then click on the profile.
That is absolutely correct. And in the spirit of learning, we just found out, thanks to a comment, that the person who created or is responsible for the Bezier curve is, you're Canadian, why don't you take a crack at that name?
You point into Corbeau?
Right there.
Corbeau de Bezier?
Knowledge. All right, let's hop back in here. Let's finish this off. So this is good. Obviously, one of the things I want to do is I'm going to triple click and reverse faces. That looks good. What's not in here is my SketchUp logo. So over here, I do have this image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make another group. I'm going to triple click, right click, and make group. All right, before I go any further, because I will forget this is not backwards. This is frontwards, opposite. It needs to be reversed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it right now, and I'm just going to scale, drag across the red axes until I get to -1. All right, there we go. So now that is the way I want it to be. So I'm going to take it right now, and I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to scale it so it fits inside my stocking. That looks like it'll maybe a little bit.
A cookie.
It's going to be incredible. And then I'm going to rotate a little bit. At this point, I'm just kind of trying to line it up with where it's going to look good. So what I want to do now is I'm going to come into this group. I'm going to push-pull this down so it goes all the way to the back side of the cookie cutter. So if this was a solid piece of material, it would be laying on the table flat with the bottom. That looks good. And now I'm going to make sure I push-pull up to the top. And now I'm going to take it down a little bit so it sits inside that shape. So you can see that, how it's laid down inside there. This part will cut the cookie down to the table. This part will stamp into the top of the cookie dough. So that looks pretty good. One thing I need to do now is tie this to the main part of the cookie cutter. So I'm going to double click into the cookie cutter, and I'm just going to do this. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Delete this bottom piece back out, and I'm just going to push-pull this up to here. And I'll delete these extra lines. All right, so what that gives me is 2 separate pieces. Almost there. Last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to check these 2 pieces. I'm going to click on the sock, and I'm going to run Solid Inspector. Solid Inspector is an extension from TomTom that takes grouped geometry and makes sure it's solid. If there's any extra lines sticking off or any holes in your mesh, anything like that that prevents it from being one solid piece, it'll flag it. And in a lot of cases, it'll actually fix it automatically.
This might be a good time to point out, saving your model would be good at this point after drawing for a while, because SketchUp won't make any autosaves until you save it initially. So let's give it a save.
Let's.
Preserve all that hard work.
I even spelled stocking correctly. All right. Yes, that is, saving is not my strong point.
Doing is.
That's right. I have time to stop doing things. I can't save. All right, so the other thing I'm going to check this my little 3D logo here, check that as well. All right, also solid. That's cool because with 2 solids, that means one of the things I can do is I can come up to my tool palettes and I can turn on solid tools. And one of the things I can do with solid tools is I can join these two together into one single solid. So if I, again, check that, everything's good. This cookie cutter right now could go to, well, it would be a very big printer if it went to a printer right now. So let's go ahead and scale it down,
And
just
if
like
you-
Josh showed.
If you're new to solid tools, what Erin did there could have been done without the solid tools, but that was way faster. So you could have went in there, merged the geometry, deleted some extra faces, but those tools are pretty sweet because they really make that much more efficient process.
Right. Big time savers. Unless you go in there and just start deleting little pieces or healing faces manually, which can be fun. It's very satisfying to manually make a cookie or a cookie cutter specifically, or any 3D model.
That's the most common use, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
I sometimes in the middle of summer will just sit down and work on some cookie cutters. Oh,
I believe you.
that's a little downtime. It's good stuff. All right, so just like Josh showed before, so if I come in here right now and I grab, it's time to take a second. I just want to point out that I'm performing what I would consider a cardinal sin of live demonstrations right now, and I'm working off a computer that was handed to me yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
Something's
so
about to go
so
wrong.
far it's gone really well. If you ever have to demonstrate software live, what you don't want to do is change your software or your hardware right before you demo. That would be a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that.
We live on the edge, though.
Just installed SketchUp and on a brand new computer yesterday.
But to go along with that, you're also wearing clothes you don't normally wear.
That's true, and yeah, I'm a lot moister under these clothes than I would like to normally demo in as well. So what I'm going to do right now is, if I was to come in and do what Josh did, if I was to just come in here and scale that and tell it what scale, it would scale my whole model. I don't want to scale the whole model. I want to leave Stacy here for reference. What I want to do is just scale the geometry inside. What I can do is if I double click the stocking and go into the group, when I do that same trick that Josh just showed, click here to here, type in 1/8 inch and hit enter. Rather than say, do you want to rescale the model, it comes up and says, do you want to scale the active group or component? By clicking yes, when I click out, the only thing that got rescaled then was my cookie cutter and not my entire model. So I don't have a mini Stacy, but a normal size Stacy that will help me to verify that that is a good size for my cookie cutter. So at that point, this is where it gets pretty routine. I can take this, go to File, Export 3D Model, choose STL as my file type. There we go. And export that. And then that file can go to my slicing software to get it prepped for 3D printing. So at that point, and we've talked about that before. That stuff's easy. But there we go. As requested, there's a stocking with a SketchUp logo in it.
It's pretty good, man.
Whew. I'm sweating. That's just the sweater and the hat, though. It was fun. That was a good time. Thank you. Good suggestion. Who made that suggestion? Whoever made the suggestion, good job.
Well, I could do one now. I'll go a little bit faster. Since you took up so much time,
I did.
Try to
I apologize.
compress one.
We got time. We're hanging out with
So
friends.
I got a lot of choices here. I got Krampus. I got Baby Jesus. I got Snowflake. I'm going to go with Snowflake.
All right.
Thank you for the suggestions. Snowflake.
It's not a
just-
battle axe, but I guess
Yeah.
it'll do.
If we did Baby Jesus, it would be more like a low polygon version. So let's open up a brand new file here. And this is just one method of making a snowflake using component symmetry. So as you saw before, we're going to start drawing at a larger scale than we need to. We're going to have a lot of intricate geometry junctions and things like that in the snowflake. So I'm going to use the polygon tool here, and I'm going to leave it at 6 sides down there in the bottom, because all snowflakes have 6 sides, so that's a good place to start here. And I'm going to draw my polygon.
Is that the reason that the default polygon is 6 because of snowflakes?
I hope so.
I think it's true.
Actually, I think default might be 5.
No, I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
it's 6 because I used 6 last, but I don't know. It might be 5.
Well, I'm
Either
on,
way-
I'm on a new computer,
Okay. So,
and it was 6.
okay, it's probably 6 then. It's,
See, there's a reason. There's a reason for all things.
A good point here is when I draw a circle or polygon, it is good practice to draw the radius along the red or the green axis. If you don't, it's not a big deal, but it's kind of nice that your termination of segments match the axes in SketchUp. You'll find that easier adjustments later on. Don't have to, but whenever I draw one, I always try to stay on the red or the green just for the radius or diameter dimension.
Right. And if you're making a model that has multiple pieces, that's going to allow you to be assured that your pieces will fit together if they both align on a single axis.
So I'm going to do 6-foot snowflake to start with. Obviously too big, but we're just going to start large, and I'm going to cut a wedge out of this. So you can see I've got my center point snap there. I'm going to start drawing a little wedge here, and I'm going to do that. And at this point, I no longer need the rest of this polygon because I've got what I need to create this full shape. And what I'm going to do here is make a component. So double click, right click, make component. And it's good practice to name these. I'm going to go snowflake wedge, and we'll say create. And at this point, when Erin stops making so much noise, I'm gonna mirror this this wedge. And as you saw Erin do, you could use the scale tool and do a -1 scale like that. And what I'm going to do here, though, is if I jump in this component, you can see there's the axes colors there. So I'm just going to right-click, do a flip along components red, and then now I'm going to merge these back together. And now I have what I want to. What's that?
I was just going to say that flip along is a great tool, and a lot of people really like it. I personally have a hard time because I never remember which direction the axes are. When I get further into a model, I might be far away from the axes, so I always end up flipping it one way and then flipping it back and then trying a different axis. So
that's the blunt force method. Yeah, just keep doing it until it looks right.
That's right.
Whatever way works. I think the scale tool is pretty nice as long as your bounding box matches the way you want to go.
Right.
But here we go. We've got it. I'm going to do a rotate or a polar array here, or a circular array, radial array, whatever you want to call it. Rotate tool. I'm going to start moving this around, tap my modifier key, and then do 5 copies. So now I can jump into one of these wedges here, and I'm going to use the eraser tool plus shift to hide some of these edges. So I want those edges hidden at the end, but for my drawing purposes now, I actually would like to see them. So I'm going to turn on hidden geometry. So the reason I'm doing that is because it might be slower later on to hide those lines afterwards. But if I hide those 2 lines right away and then turn on hidden geometry, that's more effective, I think, but you don't have to do that. And so now we have a pretty good template to start drawing just part of the snowflake, which will then be copied around each other component there. So let's see what we have here. If I just draw some really quick lines. At this point, I'm actually not going to try to be precise with the snowflake because you'll see afterwards that it's a bit easier to modify it later. So let's just draw just a basic shape like this. And I'm not too worried about the exact way that's being placed, except I'm making sure I don't draw any vertical lines though off that surface. So that's where orbiting while you're drawing kind of helps. So now that I've got that, I can get rid of this piece. And the cool part here is now, let's go back and turn off hidden geometry. Now with the move tool, so make sure nothing is selected here. With the move tool, I can actually move things around and adjust it. So it's a little bit better this way than trying to be precise drawing. You might want to just kind of play with this because you can see the full mirrored components kind of making their update while you do it. And then this one, as you saw us mention before, along an axis direction, I can be more precise and pull that along the green axis there. We're going in this way. So lots of fun. I could even add more edges at this point. So maybe now you want to give it a thickness. You could make this a cookie cutter. That would probably be a big fail in terms of the dough be baking properly.
More of a stamp.
So maybe if you're going to make
a weapon.
If you're going cookie mode, you might want to make a different type of snowflake.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but you could throw a long handle on that and call that a snowflake battle axe.
You could, and we might do that.
Satisfied? All right, so we've been talking for a little while, and we're in transition into something we haven't done before. This is a little segment. This is a little segment we're going to call Cookies and Questions. So we're going to roll out and actually make some cookies whilst answering some of the questions you guys have brought up during the broadcast. So I'm going to roll out some cookies.
I'll take a look here and see what we've
Josh
got
is going to answer
for
questions.
All right. You got enough room there?
I work with whatever I got, Josh.
I've never encountered a situation where I got flour on my 3D mouse.
Is
Okay.
that void the warranty?
I think I did see a 3D mouse question. So we had a couple overhead shots like this earlier, so you guys can see I've got a 3D mouse here. If you've watched previous broadcasts, you've seen Erin has a different one than I do. I kind of like this smaller version. Erin has more of the big, I believe it's called the Enterprise Edition.
This is the Enterprise.
Erin's pretty proud of it, as you can see.
I am. Hey, baby.
That's nice for working with a 3D mouse as you're drawing. Mine is more for, I'll stop drawing and then maybe if I'm presenting to some client or just want to show my model, I'll kind of spin around with the 3D mouse. So I use mine more for just after I'm modeling presentations and stuff like that. But actually, since we're mentioning it, is my screen being shown? We can just leave it. No, that's cool.
I feel like I'm doing all the physical labor in this episode.
Just because we've entered
slaving
the
away.
random portion of our show, we've got some other cookies here. We have to show these because, well, they're just pretty good. So these cookies, we'll show you the full circle of SketchUp here. You use SketchUp to make the cookie cutter, then you go into SketchUp and put the cookies back into SketchUp. So these little dudes are Face Me components.
We just inceptioned this thing.
Yeah. So that's full circle. They even have names, so if you click on them, you can see this guy's Marv. I think that's Meredith next. You can see there. No, it's Ralph.
Pretty sure this should end up on 3D Warehouse, Josh.
That's Meredith, and this is George in the back. But let's go back to the questions. Yeah, 3D mice, 3D mouse, 3D Connections, the company that ours are from. And at the very least, it's really awesome for presenting to clients or for just showing your SketchUp model because
Absolutely.
you know, as you draw in SketchUp for a long time, your jerky movements become pretty normal to you, but to someone watching, it's actually kind of annoying.
It can be jarring for somebody who's never seen SketchUp before to see that scroll in and out real fast. Whereas that nice smooth pan around is great. That's probably one of the most commonly asked questions we get on like the videos we post of software usage is how do you orbit so smooth? And the answer is that 3D mouse.
Yeah.
So it is a great solution. There's another question here that Martin Jonkine says, why do some textures materials I try to purge from my model not get deleted even though there is nothing in my model with that material?
I have an idea. Do you?
I'll just sit here and make cookies. You go ahead and answer the question.
I would say that material actually is in your model. You just can't find it. It might be on the back side of a surface that's enclosed by the geometry, which isn't to say you're wrong, but I've encountered the same thing, and I've looked around and I've realized, oh, it was in there. But maybe there's something else going wrong.
I would also recommend checking to make sure every layer is turned on. Go to Show Hidden Geometry, because sometimes you'll have something that should be visible, but was selected and hidden or something like that. That can happen too. So I would just check to make sure it sounds like there's probably something somewhere in your model that has a material that you're not expecting. So
could be a really tiny piece of a polygon somewhere. If it's a really obvious texture, like maybe a photo texture amongst wood grain stuff, you could go to X-ray mode and kind of see that texture kind of poking around somewhere. Because basically what I'm saying is SketchUp thinks it's in the model.
Right.
And it probably is in there somewhere.
It could be in a component that's not actually being used right now as well. So Alejandro Soriano just pointed out that you may actually have a component that's not even on your screen anywhere, but it's saved with the model that has that material. So
that could be the case
those
too.
Materials are everything that is connected to the model, not just what you see on screen.
Yeah.
So I'd say I'm 90% sure there's probably something somewhere that has that material. What I would recommend the most is if you're struggling with this, is this a job or something like that you want to get help with it, is go to our forums, forums.sketchup.com, and you can actually upload a copy of your model. And then people either with our SketchUp group or some of our users or stages will be able to take a look at that model and actually help you clean it up. It's a great way to get firsthand help when you're struggling with that kind of thing.
Speaking of the forum, I was reminded of something we want to show you guys. So when Erin drew the SketchUp logo, he traced the raster image, which is totally fine. That's often probably a faster way to do it if it's a couple of edges here and there.
It was a pretty simple, it was a simple model.
Yeah, in normal Erin modeling mode, that would have been done in probably 38 seconds.
Give or take.
What you could do, which is kind of a fun option, this happens a lot with logos, so not just cookie cutters. You might have a logo that you want to bring into 3D, make it vector lines, and then make a 3D version of the logo. So what we'll do is we'll just jump over to my browser here and show a forum post. This is a really great forum post that talks about, so the question was, how can I transform a 2D image into a 3D model? So tying this back to what Erin was doing, he brought in a SketchUp logo, raster image, and he traced it to get the line work in SketchUp. But there's an extension, it's got a funny name, it's like Spirix BMP Tracer. And this is probably a good place to start is this forum thread, because the location of the extension's not normal, where you normally would find them. And there's just a fun discussion about a guy trying to make it work. And it's a bit of a trial and error process with this extension.
Speaking of which.
So it's good to check it out here. If you want to take, basically do what Erin did, but maybe try the method where SketchUp, an extension in SketchUp can draw those lines for you. It's pretty cool, but there are some nuances to this method. I think has to be black and white, or it works better if it's black and white colors. And there's also some very specific ways you have to, I guess, give it the right image to work with. So it's a perfect thing to jump in our forum and kind of read how people will think about problems like this and give pretty fun solutions, and in a lot of cases, upload SketchUp files and really, really comprehensive answers to questions like this.
Right. We just had another question come up during that asked, I'm brand new to SketchUp and I need to learn how to use SketchUp best. The best way to do it is to start on our website. On the website we have a Learn tab, and what you can do is you can click on that Learn tab and it'll connect you to some getting started videos. There's 4 videos. They are about 10-15 minutes each, and that'll cover the basics. So it'll get you rolling in SketchUp.
Oh, I should preheat the oven first.
Oh, please do. Once you get through those, then that's where you want to jump on the forum with specific questions. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel. It's totally a biased statement, but we have a great YouTube channel. Some good-looking hosts of the videos. It's really a great spot to learn. Outside of that, there are third-party ways to learn. There are a lot of good books on SketchUp out there. There's a lot of third-party trainers. A lot of that can be found through the Learn tab on our website as well. But yeah, I would recommend starting with the Getting Started videos, and then check out the forum. And a lot of good information out there.
True. There are some questions regarding us sending cookies to people. Like TomTom, for example. YouTube wants us to send him a cookie.
I will leave these out front if you guys just want to swing by the building and grab them.
There's a good chance these cookies won't make it past the door. We could try, but I think these are going to get, people are going to want these.
Yeah.
I think the oven is just about ready for these. Do you need any help? You've been doing all the work
here. This is going to be a mess. I'm going to...
We need like a spatula or something.
All right. Had some other questions too. There was a question about an extension to clean up materials inside of your SketchUp model. There are a handful of extensions that are worth checking out if you do a lot of work with materials. There's Material Resizer, which is an extension that will help you to optimize the materials that are in there. There are a handful from, TomTom has one that's a material replacer. It really depends on what you need to do with your materials once you get into SketchUp. But yeah, extensions, if you're newer to SketchUp and you're not familiar with extensions, they are tools that add additional functionality to the base functionality of SketchUp. So it is a great way to get that little last piece. Maybe there's something you do by hand a lot and you wish there was a quicker way to do it, or some additional functionality or a way to interact with another program that you're not quite sure what to do. Odds are good that if you have that issue, somebody else has too. And if you're lucky, that somebody else actually took initiative and figured out a way to do it.
Yeah, and Erin and I were talking about this recently.
Not us.
We were talking about this the other day where extensions and finding them and installing them is actually a skill in SketchUp. It's so important to using SketchUp that that's something you should look into pretty quick, is finding extensions. Even downloading some, you don't know what they do, just kind of play around. There's a lot of free ones.
That's right. All right, well, time to stick these.
This thing ready?
Stick them in the oven.
All right, can you grab the door for me?
Yep. There you go. All right. And, I want you to burn your hand right now. Now we just got to wait for the ding.
All right. Ding. What else? What other kind of questions are rolling in?
Oh, I think they're done. Oh, there we go. Ooh, yeah, look at those. Woo.
Oh, wow.
Hot stuff. Ooh,
yeah,
good. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So there we go. Look at those cookies. They're awesome. You know, I'm just gonna. I think I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna go decorate them real quick right here. There we go. Mm-hmm. Yep. Perfect. All right. There we go. Just shot a little frosting on there. But yeah, man, those turned out really well. Mmm. There was a question. Frank Castle Wolfenstein. Oh, I gotta. I enjoy your name, Frank. Thanks for coming by. He asked about creating large models. Is it better to use the online version or the Pro? The Pro version, the desktop version, will actually allow you to work with much bigger files than what you can work with online. The online tool is an awesome way. It's accessible. It's easy to get to. The functionality is going to be the same as it is in the Pro version. But if you're dealing with really big files, then that's where you want to get SketchUp Pro. It's going to allow you to deal with bigger files. It's going to allow you to use extensions. So if you're getting serious about modeling SketchUp, then Pro is the thing to check out.
Also, my favorite part of SketchUp Pro is actually layout. There was a layout question here. I think they asked something like, when did we go to layout? In this case, we didn't need to go to layout unless perhaps we were presenting our cookie making stuff to someone else. We want to throw some dimensions on there. Maybe we'd go to layout at that point. But
Right.
This is kind of a quick and dirty, just real quick modeling in SketchUp.
Literally, dirty.
Most of the work was done, you know, in real life.
Yeah. So yeah, but once the model is completed, you can actually check out, we're on YouTube right now. The last video posted was about prepping your layout or your SketchUp file for layout. You might want to go take a look at that. The idea is to finish your actual model and then prep it with scenes, styles, that sort of thing, and then send it to layout at that point when that's all done. So with our models, as soon as we finish the actual 3D modeling, that's where we would want to prep it, get our scene set up, make that stuff right, and then send that out to layout.
Yeah, because you'll find once you're in layout, there are things you can do in SketchUp that facilitate your choices in layout and calling up different elevations, floor plans, scenes, sections, whatever. And it's actually okay if you don't do that first, because you can go back into SketchUp, make those changes, save your model, and you'll update the layout reference.
Right.
But it is good when you know what to expect to kind of do that as soon as you can in SketchUp.
Right.
Less back and forth.
The key to layout, and this is what I've learned, is preparation in SketchUp.
Yeah.
I think like most people, I grabbed layout and I went, okay, open SketchUp model, I don't know, and got frustrated. If you spend the time and energy in SketchUp making it ready for layout, there's really no end to the kind of drawings you can generate.
Yeah.
There was a recurring question about isometric views in Free, I think. Free does allow you to change from a perspective to a parallel view. If that's what you're looking for, you can do that. There's a question about modeling from a photo. That will allow you to import a flat photo, just like I did for the SketchUp logo. So I can bring it in flat, I could set my view to parallel, and I could trace on top of that flat parallel, or flat image. What you can't do in the free version is photo match, which in the Pro version, of course, is where you bring in a photo and you actually set vanishing lines and that kind of thing and actually align the 3D page to the view of a 3D image that you have. So that's not available in Free. That is a Pro only feature.
If you asked a question earlier in the broadcast and we missed it, go ahead and ask it again. We've got a lot going on there, so we want to give you a chance to ask again if we didn't cover it yet.
Yeah. But I do want to say thanks for swinging by so many awesome people. Alejandro, Dwayne, YouTube, Julio, Frank Castle, Kim, Surya. You guys are all awesome. That's really cool that you came by and hung out with us. We'd love to hear what you thought. Let us know if this was a good thing. Was this worth doing? Should we do more of these? I can't guarantee we'll do more cookies, but we'll figure out something to make it fun.
It's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there with us when we're trying to figure out the best way to do this. So we really appreciate everybody joining us, and it's a lot of fun seeing all the questions cruise in. Yeah,
we love, like I said, we love creating this kind of content, but it means a lot more when you guys are involved. Then it's not just us standing around talking about stuff we already know. We want to make sure we're talking about stuff that you want to know too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, one more.
More stuff in there? More questions?
Question about animating components such as opening and closing doors. The ideal way to do that would be using dynamic components. There's a lot of content out there about how to use dynamic components. We won't get into it right now because it is a intermediate to advanced workflow, I'd call it.
Yeah.
You have to have a pretty good grasp of how SketchUp works before you want to jump into that. But that's where it'll allow you to make components and subcomponents and change rotation, for example, on a click to open or close a door or slide a window open or close. That kind of stuff can be done with dynamic components fairly easily once you know how they work.
Yeah, there are some animation extensions in SketchUp too that are worth looking at. So cruise over to the extension warehouse and maybe type in animation or animate. Keyframe is one I've used that I like, but there's actually a few that we know work pretty well.
Yeah.
So you could do animations like that, and it's actually pretty simple because a door opening and closing is a single axis and a pretty simple move. People use SketchUp and animation extensions all the time to do pretty complicated stuff, but a door swinging is actually really simple.
Yeah, not too hard at all. We did have one more question. It was about modeling from a Google map on SketchUp Free. So one of the functions in SketchUp Pro is geolocation, and that's where you can actually go find a spot on OpenStreetMaps and pull that imagery and the associated geometry of the ground and bring it into SketchUp and model on it. That's not a function of SketchUp Free, which you could always do. I mean, if you have a map you pulled out of anywhere, you could always import it as an image. So that would be your solution there.
And if you do that and you're new to that whole process, don't forget to look at your layers panel, because when you bring in satellite imagery, you also get topography and vertical separation of the whatever geometry you brought in. So you might have a mountainous area, and you might want to use that for the context of your model. So it's not just the flat image that you get. So open up your layers panel and check on that extra layer.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're there, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate you hanging out with us for the last, hour or so. That was a lot of fun. Got some cookies made. Now I think we should see how many we can stick in our mouth at once.
All right.
You don't have to stick around for that. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks.